Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Hoosier Tailgate Live here on thehoosier.com. Glad to have you along this evening as we get back to the football aspects of things and continue our series on the portal additions that Indiana has made. Spring ball right around the corner tonight. We're going to talk about the Kansas State duo that has transferred to Indiana out of the portal, both defensive linemen, edge rushers, I guess you could say. We'll talk about them and see what they bring to the table, talk a little bit about some of the things that are occurring in college football as we have discussed over the last few weeks. A lot of things are happening and moving pretty quickly in some of the regards in that and such, but some of the off the field things that have occurred over the last week or so, as you may have heard, Lou Holtz has passed away at 85, and Coach Holtz, of course, was an icon in college football for a number of years, also in the broadcast booth as well, hosting on ESPN for a number of years. But we lost an icon of the sport and just a tremendous overall person on and off the field. Now, he wasn't the easiest to work for, from what I understand, but he knew how to win and he got it done. And probably known best for his days at Notre Dame more than anything, and some of the teams that he had there under his tutelage there. And I've known some guys that have had the privilege to work for him, and they think it was the greatest experience they had in their college coaching career to work under one of the best. And so it's sad to say that he's passed away, and condolences out to all of the Holtz family and those that were near and dear close to him as they navigate the change of, losing somebody, and never like to see that. But, Coach Holtz was like I said, one of a kind, and hate to see him go. But at the end of the day, it was good to have him involved in the greatest game around, and being one of those guys that really set up the game of college football to kind of what we know today in some respects. So sad to see that as he's passed away and moved on. But again, tonight we're going to get back to our series. We're going to talk about that Kansas State duo that's going to add some depth back into the defensive line, as we, one of the impact areas this year is going to have to be the defensive line with what we have lost. We lost a lot of production there. You Kamara, you lose Daly, Wyatt, and you can go on and on. But these two guys, I think, will bring some of that uncertainty, will fill that void that there is now, because I do think both of them have the possibility of being some big time players, especially under Brian Haynes' style of defense and the coaching that he will get at Indiana as well. But there's no question that these two young men will benefit from being in the Indiana Hoosiers lineup as we head into spring ball coming up here very shortly. It's hard to believe that we're at that point. There's already, a lot of the southern schools have already started spring practice, and some even started early. Like I think Nebraska, they started maybe like 2 weeks ago, I think. So we're already into that aspect of things that we're going to have to get ourselves geared up for spring ball here in a few weeks, and we'll get through these last few additions via the portal to get you all set with what is going to be running around on the field come this spring. And it'll be an exciting group to watch them grow and develop and see what they bring to the table as well. Also, reflecting back on some of our conversations of last week, the college football rules committee are pushing forward the tampering rule, and I do believe the transfer rule. I know that Greg Stanke from the SEC is wanting to implement a one-time transfer only and to have immediate eligibility, kind of like they used to do way back when. and try to get away from these multiple transfers of a guy going to one school, playing for a year, then immediately transferring, going to another school for whatever reason. So it'll be interesting to see if that gains any traction amongst the commissioners out there, presidents and ADs. I don't know if that would hold up, and I'm sure that would be challenged. The NCAA is in the midst of a battle right now with Chambliss, the quarterback Chambliss down at Ole Miss, where a judge has ruled him to be eligible for this next year, giving him a 6th year. And the NCAA, as we talked about last week, is really pushing the courts to come up with a decision on the rules when it reflects on eligibility. And I think we've kind of discussed that ad nauseum about what the NCAA is trying to accomplish, but I do think they're going to push this Chambliss appeal so that they can have some type of direction when it comes to eligibility standards and what is enforceable and what may not be enforceable. And so that will be an interesting dynamic to keep an eye on. But right now, he appears to be eligible to play this upcoming season for Ole Miss, which is a huge boost for Ole Miss. But it'll be interesting to see what comes of that one as well. And so again, still a lot of the same things are going on out there when it comes to some of the rules that we have seen kind of butted up against. The other one was the transferring outside of the portal window. A kid that maybe doesn't announce that he wants to transfer, go into the portal, waiting to the end of the semester or the school year, withdrawing from school A, and then automatically going enroll in school B. I do think that one will get itself some traction and teeth in it, because that kind of circumvents the policy of what the portal is supposed to be used for. But we'll find out with that one as well. But again, it's all in the hands of those that are smarter and a lot more involved in this matter than myself or anyone else. But again, tonight, talk a little bit here about the NFL draft. 9 Hoosiers ultimately being able to participate in that. And we'll go and take a quick look at some of these guys. If I can bring that over here, let's see if I can get that pulled up where, okay, now we're rolling, I guess you could say. A lot of the Hoosiers were in it and participated down there at Indianapolis. Right now, as you can see, hopefully you can see on the board, you had Fernando, Omar Cooper, Pons, Elijah Surratt, Coogan, Riley Nowakowski, Hemby, Fisher, and Lewis Moore all participated. And I do think the guy that really enhanced his stock was Omar Cooper, because of what he was able to show out on the field. As you can see,
at Verbo, we understand that even the best of plans sometimes.
Let's see if I can get the music out of there.
We plan for the plot twists. Every booking is automatically backed by our Verbo Care Guarantee, giving you confidence from the very start.
Well, we'll see what happens
Whenever you
here.
need help, it's ready before your stay, through the moments in between, and after your trip. Because a great
But you can see there with Omar how he came out of all this.
A good playlist
and everything. So he did quite well in all the things here. This is actually his 40 run that he did. And he ran a
4.43.
A 4.43. And that was good to see from Omar in that respects. But again, the evaluation for him being an overall 6.36, that basically says that they do believe he'll be a potential starter within year one. He, scored out real well. He ranked 4th among the wide receivers, and athleticism was pretty decent. Broad jump, vertical jump, all those things. So I do think Omar really enhanced his draft stock in the combine. that happened there this past week. D'Angelo, again, I think he kind of quieted some of the critics about his size and height, as you can see. Now, he did not run any of the 40s or 10-yard split. He did the vertical jump at 43 and a half, which is like, wow. But you can see he's 5'9", 182 pounds. And you can see the concern, at the NFL is whether he's tall enough to go compete in the NFL. Well, I think with some of the things that he showed in some of the workouts and stuff, his ability to getting in and out of breaks, catch the football, and those type of things, I think that's pretty reflective there with that 6.2 evaluation grade that they gave him. So, D'Angelo did pretty decently as well. Elijah Surratt, he did not test in any of the categories. Now, I don't know what that means, how they view that and everything. But he eventually graded out as a 6.22, which means he's kind of a down the road guy. But I'm not quite sure why he didn't test. Maybe he's waiting for the pro day at Indiana to do that, which is possible. But he did not test there at the combine. I don't know if he was hurt or not. You got Coogan. Nowakowski is another one that did quite well. He ran a nice 40. Let's see if I've got that. His 40 time was pretty good. I think he ran a 4.66 40, which really kind of surprised me some in that respect. But, I think he helped his stock as well in the combine with his performance there for Indiana's group of 9. Hemby, Fisher, and Lewis Moore, they graded a little lower, especially Hemby. I thought he'd grade a little higher, but those guys are probably going to be late round draft picks in the NFL draft. I think all these guys will eventually get a shot, per se, because of the opportunity that that combine gives them. But I got a feeling that those 9 are going to have a chance to get some type of free agent contract. There'll be some drafted. I think Omar's projected potentially in the second round as of now. So we'll have to wait and see, because it's never a set in stone type of thing, because things change on the drop of a dime. But again, not too bad for Indiana. 9 guys at the combine. That again helps the brand awareness. Kids know that you're helping put guys in the league. That will be an attraction for recruits, especially those rated guys. And I think Indiana helped themselves out quite a bit with having those 9 there. And we'll see what all happens. But wanted to kind of get some feedback there on that. If you guys got any questions, please, again, tonight, by all means, put it in the chat box. We'll try to get to it. Make sure you hit that the like button, subscribe as well. And anything you can do there to help us along, we'll greatly appreciate it. But let's get to the guys that we wanted to talk about tonight. These 2 edge rushers from Kansas State. One is Chiddi Obiazor. He is one of them that we'll talk about. These are not easy names, and I'm not great with them. The other one is Tobi Osunsanmi is the other one. So those 2 we're going to talk about tonight. And the first thing, when you talk about edge rushers in the grand scheme of things here, what you're looking for in some of the guys that you want to take, when guys look at edge rushers, you're looking at speed to power move. You're looking about setting the edge setting on versus the run, being able to have a great motor, which I think that was, when Wyatt was playing, I thought he always had a great motor. He had a relentless ability about him. Of course, Stephen Daly as well. But then you have the guys that have great hand placement, violent hands, have a great chance to bend the edge, which means they're trying to dip and rip around tackles and all those things. So when you talk about these 2 guys, that's kind of what you look for in these edge guys, and especially in the scheme that Indiana likes to play, where they play um, kind of a three-man front at times. They'll jump into the four-man front and those type of things. But these guys are all possibility with what they've been able to do when it comes to what they showed on tape and what Indiana looked for when they got these guys out of the portal. I think they've always been productive. They both have 1 year of eligibility remaining. And ultimately, it's going to see how fast they adapt to things here at this level of play in that respect. And we're going to talk about these two guys first, then we'll show film about them sooner rather than together as a group. And I wanted to see here because I do have something to bring in to the equation. And let's see, I do think this is Chiddi Obiazor's numbers from last year. Again, 28 tackles, 4.5 TFLs, things of that nature. He had only 2 sacks last year, but I don't let that number fool you about what he is capable of. I believe this kid's like 6'3", 260. He has the length and leverage. He's a pocket disruptor, multiple alignments. This kid, he'll play a 3 technique too. So Kansas State not only used him as a 7 technique, a 9 technique at times, which means outside the tight end, and then a 3 technique over the guard. He showed a lot there at Kansas State, and he's a big physical kid that he graded out pretty good with the PFF stuff. I'm not going to sit here and say that he was a world beater in his grades at Kansas State. They struggled a little bit on defense, but I do like his ability to be physical, to get in and out off of blocks. I think he does a great job when he's setting the twist of taking out the men that he's aiming for. And he does show some great acceleration at the point of attack as well, and being a good disruptor inside. He's a little bit, Stephen Daly type of body when you watch him a little bit, but I was impressed with him as well on tape. But I do think this young man has a great chance to, add to the depth of what Indiana has at the D line. And remember, Indiana really likes to play about 8 guys up front. I mean, they really like to keep guys fresh. And, these guys are coming from that same type of philosophy at Kansas State where they would play, about half to 3/4 snaps a game of last year. But I think that fits into Indiana's makeup up front as adding to that rotation and what they lost, especially this past season and stuff. And then the other young man is this is Tobi Osunsanmi. Now this kid I like a lot. This kid's got great get off speed. He has great closing speed. I like the way he hustles to the ball and things of that nature. He had 4 sacks last year, 6 TFLs, as you can see there. He was a guy that I think with Indiana getting both of them, I think is going to pay big dividends because they're familiar with each other. They've played with each other. And again, like I said, fit into that category of what we need and what we need now. And he's going to be a great edge player. He's a guy that, kind of pops off the tape. Now, he only played, I think, 6 games last year for Kansas State. He did get hurt there about the midway point of the year. And he ended up, sitting out for the latter part of the season. Not quite sure what it was, but I'm assuming, because I've heard nothing, that he'll be ready to go come spring practice as soon as we know. I'm sure when they have their first true spring ball presser, if anybody's going to miss a great deal of time, it will be discussed then as well. But again, these two guys, I think, are going to be dynamite for Indiana when it comes to next season and what they bring to the table on with both of them. And we'll sit and talk a little bit here. When we get back, we're going to step aside, take a quick break here. And when we come back, we'll have the video of both of these players that came in from Kansas State, adding the depth that Indiana needs on defense, all right here on the Hoosier Tailgate on thehoosier.com.
Take a moment and soak this in. Indiana is national champions, history made, banners raised, a season we'll talk about forever. And now it's time to wear the moment. Head to My Fanatics store and grab the official Indiana Hoosiers national championship gear. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, and championship designs built for fans who lived every snap, every fourth down, every win. This is authentic Fanatics gear, not knockoffs. Designed to last, comfortable, and ready to rep anywhere you go. Whether you're at the game, around town, or watching next season, knowing who sits on top, this is how you show it. Supplies won't last forever, and once it's gone, it's gone. So don't wait. Hit the Hoosier Tailgate Fanatics store, lock in your Indiana National Champions gear, and wear it with pride, because this championship is forever.
Hoosier fans, listen up. If you're serious about the Hoosiers, thehoosier.com is where you need to be. We're talking insider reporting, film breakdowns, recruiting, and transfer portal coverage you won't get anywhere else. And when you subscribe, it's more than just one site. You also get full access to Rivals, On3, and The Athletic at no extra cost. Right now, you can jump in for just $1. Then it renews annually at the regular rate. $1. Total access. No brainer. Head to thehoosier.com and join today.
Welcome back to the Hoosier Tailgate live here on thehoosier.com. Appreciate y'all being along with us tonight. And again, just as a reminder, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate those that are subscribed on the channel. Much appreciation for that. And we're going to get into the video here of these two kids from Kansas State. You know, I believe the spring practice will be starting here towards the latter part of March. I think is what I saw in that respect. But I know that they're really involved in their winter workouts right now, getting a chance to come together as a team and compete, and trying to set the stage for the spring practice. So again, you know, a couple weeks from now, we'll be in it, and Indiana will have its chance to get these new guys out and see what they got. I mean, it'll be Christmas Day come the first couple weeks of spring practice, because you get all these guys, you know, especially out of the transfer portal, and the first year and second year players that may have not had a tremendous amount of reps. And now you get to really see how these kids have developed and how the new guys fit into the system. You know how Coach Cignetti always talks about the quarterbacks that come into his system. He says they're not going to be very good the first week or two. And then towards the latter part of spring practice, they really start grasping a hold of it and really starting to understand the process that they want them to go through. And I think Hoover is one of those guys that will ultimately fill in pretty good with everything. And, as well as all the other ones that are going to be involved. I'm interested to see Marsh and how he's coming along. I've heard nothing but glowing remarks about the young man, both on and off the field. So that is great to hear, but I'm anxious to see how he sets into the things offensively. But we're going to set our sights right now on the two young men from Kansas State that Indiana added to the roster this year. Again, Chiddi is number 8 and Tobi is number 44. I think in this one, they're lining up here, and this is Osunsanmi right there, 44. And again, this is against UCF. Taven Jackson is actually at quarterback here. But on this play here, you talk about setting the edge. Let's look at up here at the top. He does a great job of getting upfield and setting that edge, forcing it back inside. That's what you look for him to do. And you can see back here with Tobi, because they've got a looper linebacker for the quarterback read stuff, he can turn it and go. So nothing there is holding him. And so he can chase from the backside here. And he does a pretty good job of that. The biggest thing there is, and we'll get to the end zone there, I don't like him, leaping there. You like for him to make that tackle because he's unblocked. There's nobody there, and he could have had himself at least a couple yard loss. Right there when he tries to kind of leaves his feet. Trust your speed, man, and go get it. Wrap him up and don't let him get away. But you can see at top here, I like how Chiddi, I think it's Chiddi, how he uses his hands here. You can see it here in a second. He does his arm, he gets it stiffed out. He gets the separation there. So he's got his outside arm free, funneling it back into the 3 technique and that Mike linebacker. And they've got everything taken care of here. And he does a great job and stays on it and makes the tackle. And while they get a couple yards, it was still a good play by both those guys. Yeah, I hope you're right there, Scott, as it pertains to who they brought in and how they set up. I just, again, we've got a lot of production to replace, and I do think they've got the right answers so far. We'll see. All right, here's this time. I don't think they're in this play. No, I don't think this is one. Wait a minute. Yeah, they're here. This is one, as you can see off the twist down here at the bottom for Obiazor. We'll get the end zone. Here he is playing a 3 technique, and they're going to run a twist here. This guy's going to come in there, and he's going to come all the way around, and watch his acceleration here. He doesn't get the sack, but he does enough to distract it there, and he's in a position to wrap up and make a hit on the quarterback, which causes Taven to kind of throw off balance here. And so that incompletion is much about the defensive lineman there more than anything, and how he came full speed ahead and made a nice play. Now we get a little bit again here. He's up at this is Obiazor, number 8. This time I think he's the guy that sets the twist, if I'm not mistaken. He's right here. And I think he's going to do a good job of setting the twist there and freeing up his buddy, because there's Tobi coming over top, and he makes a nice play here. You can see his acceleration here. He gets hung up, but he still comes out of it. Man, that is a hit. Does a great job. Boom. And that had a lot to do with that aspect. And again, when you're looking for defensive linemen, you want them to get the sacks, the TFLs, but every time they can get a good, clean hit on the quarterback, it goes a long, long way as the game creeps along, because quarterbacks don't like to be hit. And as you can see there, Taven has taken 2 shots of last couple plays. Let's see here. I can't see from this angle. I think it's Tobi's at the top. This time he's the one that's setting the see what we got here. Yeah, he's going to set the pick there on the loop for the looper. He does a great job of busting through the 2-man, squeeze and stuff. And then he does a great job of getting back to the line of scrimmage. And here's what I like too. There's Chiddi, number 8. He's on the twist, but I like the fact that he's running, trying to get his helmet all in the picture. And I like that type of effort. And that's the thing. When guys are twisting, you're looking for, okay, are they doing the responsibility on the twist? And then what do they do as the play progresses? Do they just give themselves up and say, okay, I'm out of this play? Or do they fight through it and then try to get in themselves going again to get in on the play. And that right there kind of showed that from both of them. You know, there's one thing about being the twist guy. You want to help set it, of course, but you got to play with that intensity at all times. Again, here is the guys twisting again. You got Tobi down here at the bottom, does a great job there, setting it there for the defensive tackle. It almost ends up as an interception. And then Chiddi here is playing a true 3 technique now. So he has the ability to kick down into the 3, and that's kind of beneficial for Indiana. Remember, they brought the other kid from Notre Dame in as an edge player as well. So there's some flexibility there. But again, does a good job there, tries to fight through it. But again, that hit plays a big dividend when it comes down to it. And that's kind of that there on some of those clips there. Want to show you a couple here from the Iowa State game. And we'll just kind of let these play here. And this was one of their first conference games. You can see them here against a very good Iowa State team. We're just going to kind of let it play through it all to get a feel for the game as itself and how they read and react. And you can see Kansas State's a little bit caught off guard here and get almost selves outnumbered there at the point of attack. And they do a good job of really squeezing that down a lot, not giving up a bigger play. You can see Tobi's more of the stand-up guy, field type of guy. That's kind of where Kamara played this past year. And down there at the bottom, that's where, Daly would go as well. Now, here's one where he doesn't do a great job of keeping his outside free. He recognizes it, gets on his horse, and still makes the play. But you can see why you got to be as an edge setter, you got to help yourself not be hooked or get yourself hooked by that tackle and let the play get outside there. Now, he may have gotten held there as well, but it kind of looked okay from that standpoint on there. Now Tobi's at the top, 44. And the quarterback from Iowa State, he did transfer to Penn State. A lot of these guys that Iowa State had actually did transfer to Penn State. So we're going to see a lot of these guys in the Big Ten this next year with Coach Matt Campbell. And that'll be an interesting dynamic to see how well they do here. Again, these guys, I do think, like I said, the guys are going to play a ton of snaps. Indiana doesn't like to play a ton of snaps with their defensive linemen. They want to keep them as fresh as possible, especially against the teams that run the tempo stuff. They want to make sure they get them and put themselves in a position that they're getting fresh guys each and every time to get off the ball in everything that they want to do as a defense. And I do think these two guys will give Indiana those things when it comes to what Indiana likes to do. So I do think both of them fit the defense that Brian Haynes likes to run. I do think both of them, have a higher ceiling that they can get to. I think they're going to get better playing in a system that Brian Haynes likes to incorporate and get these guys in sync with everything. And I do think they're going to add the necessary depth in that part of the aspect of things. And when you think about it, how do these guys fit into the third down impact? The biggest thing is they're both, I think, pretty good disruptors when it comes to passing situations. I do think they do have some technique things that allows them to utilize their God-given ability to get off blocks and make the play and put pressure on a quarterback, especially Tobi. I do think he's a guy that really is going to be a fantastic edge player for Indiana, especially as a rusher going up against tackles and stuff. I do think that is going to be one of his key things. And then of course, Chiddi is one of those guys that's a big, strong, physical guy that I think can hang in there against the rush and play the run really well, and also be a factor in the passing game when you kind of use the twisting aspect that Indiana likes to do in situations, trying to free up guys. So I do think they both complement that well. Jason, good evening. Glad you could join us here. Appreciate that. But with everything, so I do think, and when it comes to that, these two guys are definitely good additions for Indiana. Do I think they're, do I think they're world beaters? I don't necessarily know if they're going to be world beaters. I do give Tobi a little better chance of being one of those top-notch Big Ten type of guys. We'll see where Chiddi comes out at in terms of his progressional aspect of things. But I do think Indiana has given themselves a couple guys that will add the necessary depth to the equation, especially on their defense heading into spring, and of course heading into this next season as well in that respect. So that's the big thing that I think that Indiana did with these two pickups. We talked about some of the DBs that they've got. We've got another DB to cover from Penn State, a guy transferred in from Penn State. We also got the young man from Notre Dame, who's also an additional edge rusher. We'll talk about those two next week. So we'll have a pretty good dynamic of cornerback and another guy that's labeled as a defender, but also Signetti said the young man could also potentially be a tight end. Let's see here. What's the buzz with the Texas Test kid over here? Yeah, Brewster. Indiana does have a good shot of landing him. Brewster's dad and Coach Haynes both played together at Ball State. So there's a connection there. He's a really good player, and they do have a really good chance of flipping him. And the last I heard, it was trending in Indiana's direction. Now, they're going to have a battle on their hands, not just from Texas Tech, but from other schools that are in the mix as well because of his talent. So I do think he's going to be a possible in terms of trending towards Indiana because of that connection, number one. And he's a guy that may come in and have instant impact as well because he is a man. No question about it. And speaking of recruiting, Indiana's trending pretty well on a couple 5-stars. We're going to wait and see. You don't want to get out too far in front of it because, again, it's really early in that recruiting carousel, as we all know. But they do have some possibilities of landing a couple 5-star guys as well outside of Brewster heading into this 28 class. And the brand awareness has never been better for Indiana. The national championship, the exposure at the NFL Combine, it's going to make kids that are those legit, no doubt recruits, at least take a look at Indiana, take a visit, get a feel for the campus and things like that nature, and be a part of that decision-making process. And again, while Indiana may have a chance to get a couple here and there, it's still going to be a battle for them because they're still going up against the Blue Bloods that have a lot of years of tradition in front of them. And Indiana's just put themselves up on the stage with all the other Blue Bloods. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic to watch here with this recruiting class as we head into the summer months as well. And especially these spring practice dates, have the chance to see where everybody is coming for spring practice to take a look at Indiana's spring practice coming up here in a couple of weeks throughout the spring. Remember, get over to thehoosier.com and get that subscription. Great coverage on recruiting, of course, from Rivals, which is the lead authority on all things recruiting. as you can pick up a lot of things there early on in the process of where Indiana stands with that. Jason wants to know, do we have a solid backup quarterback for this upcoming season? Well, we do have Grant Wilson coming back. He's a kid that transferred in a year ago and played at Old Dominion a couple seasons ago. So I do think he adds that depth at there, knowing that you have a guy that's played. We'll have to see what happens, what Tyler Cherry is able to go and accomplish this spring. That will be a critical component as well, because he's coming off that serious knee injury. But I do think with Grant Wilson being there, that does give him some backup, experience coming into this year. And I do think, if Tyler Cherry can progress like he was when he came in as a true freshman, then I do think then you're going to have a legit three deep at the quarterback position. And Indiana will add some in the upcoming recruiting classes because they're going to need to when it comes to it. But it does appear right now, Coach Cignetti is probably going to be a guy that's going to go into the portal for a quarterback pretty much year in, year out until he feels like he's got somebody on campus that he's ready to turn the Cadillac over to and let him drive the bus, so to speak. But right now, you got to feel that his philosophy when it comes to the quarterback position is to get a guy with experience, and whether he's got 1 year or 2 years of eligibility, he's willing to go out and do that as proven. And that's kind of what happened with, Mendoza and him leaving to go to Georgia Tech. He just didn't want to take another seat for another year when he could go to Georgia Tech and possibly play right away, or at least that's what he's been told in that respect. So, but I want to again thank you for being here with us tonight on the Hoosier Tailgate. Both these guys, Osunsanmi and Obiazor, both guys I do think are going to fit nicely into the Brian Haynes package of things, and I do think they make up for some of the depth that Indiana lost and productivity. We'll see how that all works together once we get a chance to put our eyes on them and watch them do their stuff, and always have the, cautious, optimistic approach with those type of guys. But I do think the Tobi kid, I really like him. I think he's going to be dynamite in what Brian Haynes likes to do as a defensive coordinator. Now, next week, we'll continue on with this series of the portal additions. We'll talk about the other defensive edge player as well as the cornerback transfer from Penn State. We'll take a look at those two individuals and get all caught up, because after that one, we're pretty much done, I think, with the portal additions for this 2026 team, and we'll get ourselves ready to go for spring practice here in a couple more weeks. Until next time, I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. You've been watching the Hoosier Tailgate right here on thehoosier.com. Good night, everybody.